Greetings and salutations, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the channel. In this video, I am going to be making a tier list for all of the specializations in the finals. This is probably going to be a pretty, much shorter than my weapons video that I made the other day, but that's okay. Specializations are also important, so we'll probably start off how we did yesterday. I'll probably do the light stuff first. So, cloaking device. If you are playing terminal attack, then this is going to be an S tier. If you're not playing terminal attack, then this is if you're playing world tour. I mean, when I say terminal attack, if I ever say that in this video, I mean ranked. And if I say the other game mode, I'm going to mean world tour, which isn't ranked. So if you're playing ranked, this is going to be an S tier. It's just really, really, really good. Very annoying to play against. Someone has to use their thermal vision at like the perfect time to be able to know you're there, or their sonar grenades, but they have limited amounts of those. So this is going to be S tier for terminal attack or ranked. And for world tour, I'm going to put it into B, just because it's for the light, and light isn't as good in world tour altogether. And also, I think you will get more out of the evasive dash in world tour. I mean, the cloaking device can, well, actually, no, you know what? It's going to go in A for world tour. Yeah, it's going to go in A for world tour because it is just a solid specialization, actually. But it is unfortunately for the light, but it is strong. You know, people just don't really see you if no one's using sonar grenades. If the enemy team doesn't have any lights, they don't have sonar grenades or thermal vision, you're just not really going to be seen. You do have to be quite good at managing it, because I think it's still got a like 33% activation cost, which is insane. So you do have to be like very, very, very good at kind of managing when you use it and when you don't. But if you could do that, this is going to be super annoying to play against. Then the grappling hook, yeah, this is just quite simply the lowest of all tiers of anything. It's like the worst thing in the game, aside from maybe like flashbangs. It's been extremely weak since launch, and just nothing's ever really been done with it. But it's definitely still extremely weak. Evasive dash is just simply better. I believe evasive dash takes you faster from point A to point B than the grappling hook. I think you get a charge of evasive dash faster, but you start with 3, but you only start with 1 with the grappling hook. I might be completely wrong about that, but I read that on Reddit somewhere at some point. Maybe it's been buffed since though. But the grappling hook is just really not good. There's really not a whole lot of point in using that when you've got the evasive dash, which has 3 uses and a faster cooldown. It's just going to be so much more useful, and that's obviously going to take us to the evasive dash. And this is probably just going to go in A as well. Again, cloaking device is definitely going to be S tier for terminal attack, but evasive dash is going to be very solid and everything, so it's just going to go in very high A tier. It's like just all around super solid. Okay, my dog started barking, but I believe that stopped now. You didn't need to know that, but now you do. So, as I was saying, evasive dash is just very, very solid, always good in like all game modes, regardless of what you're playing, always just going to be a very, very good pick. And it's going to pair well with most of your weapons as well. It's going to pair well with everything from the sniper to the dagger to the sword to the XP54. It's just going to be a very, very solid pick, and it pairs well with like actually everything. So always going to be super solid. You do have to know how to use it. You can't just kind of, you know, dash directly towards people, because that's going to be a very, very easy pick for them. You do have to kind of go from side to side. Knowing how to manage the cooldown of it can be useful as well for surviving more encounters. You don't want to use just all 3 dashes at once. And there's also some like parkour stuff you can do with it. Like you can jump out a window on one level and then dash like twice, and then you can get up to the window on the next level. There's stuff like that you can do with it as well, which takes a little bit of a higher skill ceiling. But even if you're just, oh, I hit my microphone. Even if you're just an okay player, this is going to be like a very solid choice for you as well. So that's it for light. Only 3 specializations for the light. Also only 3 for the medium, which is what we're going to go on to. Healing beam is just S tier. If you're playing medium and you're playing world tour, you really should just put healing beam on. It's simply just like the best specialization in the game. There's a reason it's not in ranked, right? Because otherwise it would just be completely broken, basically. But it's just quite simply S tier. Having instant heals is extremely useful, and pairing it with the defibrillator, which you just should have on as a medium, is going to be super powerful as well. And that's just like a natural combo that most mediums, like 99% of mediums, are going to have, but it's an extremely useful one. So it's just going to go in S tier. Always going to be useful, regardless of whatever situation you're in. It's always going to be very, very good to heal your teammates or to be healed by teammates. It's always going to be an excellent pick to bring into a fight or into your games. So So then we're going to come to the turret, and this is probably going to go into B tier. It's okay. It's not fantastic. It doesn't do that much damage. Its lock-on is weird. Sometimes people have to shoot it first before it locks onto them. And then even then, they're probably just going to destroy the turret before it turns around onto them. So unless you've got a player that like really doesn't know what they're doing and doesn't know how the turret works, they're probably just going to destroy it. And like, yes, it distracts them for like 1 second, but they can also just not shoot the turret. They can just like play around the turret if they need to. So this is okay. It's an okay pick, but it's really not that fantastic at all. And that's going to be pretty much the same with the dematerializer. Like, both of these things are okay. It's just that the healing beam is so much better that there's really not a whole lot of point in picking either of these things. The dematerializer you can use creatively. It can be quite good in like making a quick getaway or chasing down lights with evasive dash or something. It can be useful for that, but that's it. It's not really offering a whole lot to your team, and neither is the turret. Well, the turret actually kind of does offer something to your team. It distracts the enemies, but, you know, people can destroy it really, really, really quickly, and then you've got a pretty long cooldown again on your specialization. The healing beam, you press Q and you have it, you press Q and it's gone, right? It's like, you instantly take it out, instantly put it away, and the turret, you can't really do that because it's got a long cooldown once it's been destroyed, and the dematerializer is okay, but it's not going to be good in every situation all the time. You can use it creatively, you can use it to, like, bring the cash out a level below, or kind of make a sneaky entrance somewhere and all that kind of stuff. So it can be good in the right hands, but the healing beam's just going to be so much better. So there's really not going to be a whole lot of point in using either of these. Even in ranked where the healing beam isn't available, I genuinely would just play heavy or light. I really would just completely skip playing medium, because the Guardian Turret and Dematerializer are simply not stronger than, you know, Cloaking Device or Evasive Dash or Charge and Slam or Winch Claw or anything like that. They're just not as powerful, and the lights either have better weapons or the heavies have better health. So why would you play medium in ranked, right? So that's a lot of reasons there why those are going to go into B. And then we're going to come on to the heavy weapons, and this is the class that has 4 specializations. Where am I going to put these? I think Goo Gun is going to go into B. I'm going to put it first in B. You can use the Goo Gun very, very creatively, more so than the Dematerializer, I find. And it pairs very, very well with lots of different things. So it pairs very well with the flamethrower, because if you goo someone and then set the goo on fire, or you goo off a large area, someone enters it and then you set it on fire, that's obviously going to do a ton of damage. Or just pyro grenades, anything that makes fire. If you pair this with, that can be very, very powerful and very, very destructive. You can also pair it with like the spear or the sledgehammer to like goo someone and then run up to them while they're like frozen for a second and then whack them with the sledgehammer. Probably just take them out. So it is kind of hard to do some of that stuff, but you can use it in that regard to eliminate opponents, and then you can also use it to just like simply defend the cash out and make it more difficult for enemies to enter an area. So it's also very, very useful for that. So it's got like a lot of potential to it, which is why it's going to go and be, you know, it's not like really good or fantastic, but it does have a lot of potential, and you probably do have to be pretty good to make it worthwhile, but it can be worthwhile. It is a solid specialization. And then the Charge and Slam. Ooh, do I want to put this in S tier? I don't. I'm not going to put it in S, because the Healing Beam is just definitely the best thing. I'm going to put it in A. Well, yeah, I'm going to put it in A. The Charge and Slam is... I'm going to put it at the end of A, because I think it is going to be better in World Tour than in Ranked. So, yeah, if it was Ranked, I mean, if it was just World Tour, it would go first in A, I would say, but because it's not, because it's Ranked as well, I'm going to kind of like average it out and put it at the end of A, because Ranked isn't going to make it go in B, but I think it is going to make it go at the end of A. So, just to reiterate that, because I didn't say it very clearly, if this were just World Tour, I would put it in A, and if it were just Ranked, I'd probably put it in B, so I'm going to average it out and put it at the end of A. By the way, whatever's on the left, I think, is probably better than whatever is on the right. I don't think I said that already. So, Charge and Slam is very solid. If you use this, you are faster than a medium for a couple of seconds, and its cooldown is really, 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 really fast. This pairs extraordinarily well with anything that does damage over time, like the flamethrower, or any melee weapons, because you can like catch up to someone and then start bonking them again. And it pairs well with damage over time weapons because, you know, do a little bit of damage to them and then shard and slam them and then they die, and then like RPG them and then they die. So this pairs very, very well with lots of different stuff, and it's also just a nice movement buff, and it has a super low cooldown. So very, very low cooldown, lots of damage potential, and it pairs very, very well with lots of stuff on the heavy's kit. So all around, just a pretty solid weapon, and I mean solid specialization, and you can use it creatively to destroy certain structures as well if you really wanted to, or making like an unexpected entrance into a room. Definitely just a super solid specialization, putting it just behind the cloaking device and the evasive dash, because I think those are going to be more universal in their uses, but Charge and Slam I think you're mainly going to be seeing in World Tour, again just because the light really is the meta in World Tour, in Ranked rather. Yeah, then we're going to get to the Winch Claw. And this is a pretty solid thing if you can hit your shots with it. Maybe I'll put it in B just because it's quite hard to use. I'm going to put this in B. I'm going to put it first in B because I think it's quite hard to use. You have to have like pretty good aim to consistently chain opponents with it. Then once you have chained an opponent with it, you need to know if they're a light, a medium, or heavy. If they're a light, they're gonna evasive dash, so you have to like place a barricade really, really quickly to stop them from getting away. If it's a medium, then you can probably just do whatever you like. And if it's a heavy, you have to assess what weapon they're using. Like if they're using the sledgehammer and you're using the spear, maybe you should back out of that fight because maybe you're not going to win it, right? So I think there's a lot of things you have to know before you use this. And again, it has a really long cooldown. So if you hit an opponent, if you miss a shot on an opponent with it, then you can't do anything and you're probably just going to be out in the open, unable to bring them closer to you or anything like that. So I would rather kind of go towards the enemies myself using something like the Charge and Slam, or keep the enemies in place using something like the Goo Gun, than bringing the enemies to me with the Winch Claw, because I think there's a lot of things that can go wrong with it if you're not like a very, very good player that has super consistent aim. But it is solid. If you can hit your shots with it, even though I think that's going to be difficult to do consistently, it's going to be very, very useful depending on what you're pairing it with, and also it's just good for general use as well, like bringing a teammate's totem to you or moving the cash out in a situation where someone's stealing it or something like that can be super annoying to play against. Again, gonna be more useful in World Tour than in Ranked, but all around I would say it's like pretty solid but not very good. I'd say it just has its uses really. And then we come to the mesh shield. Where am I going to put that? Because I'm a solo queuing player, and I normally solo queue all the way up to Diamond 4, I'm trying to do that this season as well, I think I'm actually going to put this into C tier. And that's just because I'm a solo queuing player. I would absolutely never pick the mesh shield over Charge and Slam or the Goo Gun or the Winch Claw as a solo queuing player. And that's because even sometimes if you're directly next to your teammates and there's people far away and they're standing directly behind you and you shield, from my experience in about 80% of situations, if you shield when your teammates are right behind you and the enemies are really far away and your teammates see the enemies, they will not shoot from behind the shield. They will go like left and right of the shield or stand like 3 meters away from the shield and shoot at the enemies and take damage for absolutely no reason instead of standing behind the shield and being completely safe. So that's my whole experience with the mesh shield. And obviously if your teammates aren't shooting out of it, then there's not going to be so much point to using this. I would much rather have Charge and Slam, which can be so much more offensive, or the Goo Gun, which can be so much more defensive, than have the mesh shield, which when I'm solo queuing is just in a really, really weird spot because you never know what you're gonna get with teammates. And from my experience, again, this is gonna be from back when the rank system was still World Tour. I mean, well, still cash out. So maybe the rank system wasn't the best, maybe the matchmaking wasn't the best, maybe I was getting unlucky with my teammates. But every time I tried this in ranked, it didn't go well for me. But it also has its weaknesses. Like right now, a lot of people are running Flamethrower because Lewis gun and M60 feel like a nightmare to use. So right now in World Tour, a lot of people are just running flamethrower, and obviously fire goes through the shields. And if I'm playing heavy, I would be running charge and slam. So if someone's meshing, I say ha ha ha. I laugh at them as I'm sprinting towards them, about to charge into them and come at them with an RPG and a flamethrower. And there's not going to be so much they can do. Also, it completely gives away your position, which is another thing that I don't really like. So I'm putting it in C if you're solo queuing. Now, if you aren't solo queuing, and if you're like 5 stacking in ranked, or if you're, you know, trio stacking in World Tour, this is obviously going to be much more useful. It would probably be like first in B or like last in A. Maybe even ahead of the Charge and Slam if you're really using it very well with your teammates, because there's not a whole lot the enemies would be able to do. Yeah, so if you're trio queuing in World Tour and you really know what you're doing and you really have good communication, it would probably go somewhere in A. But I think most people watching this video aren't going to be trio queuing with like a really, really good, you know, team with lots of really good communication or anything like that, so I'm just going to leave it in C. I really don't think it's going to be that useful at all if you're solo queuing. I know even if you're using the flamethrower, you can like set someone on fire and then shield, and then set someone on fire and then shield, but that takes up a lot of time when you could just be constantly doing damage with the flamethrower and then charge into them and then they're dead. But if you're constantly staying in one position, doing a bit of damage, then shielding, the enemy is going to like mark you and call for their teammates, and then you're probably just going to die to someone else that shoots you in the back. I really, really don't feel like this is a fantastic specialization if you're solo queuing. I think there's lots of other things that are going to offer much more. And in ranked, this can be okay, but, you know, some invisible light's going to come up behind you, stun you, and then finish you off with the SH-1900 in 2 shots. And that's not going to feel very nice. Like, again, in ranked, light really is just the only meta. So playing medium or heavy is just going to be subpar. And I don't think this specialization is really going to change that if you're playing terminal attack ranked. I don't think it's going to be fantastic. It really does give away your position. Like if you're hiding in a corner underneath one of the buildings in Kyoto, for example, it's really going to give away your position, and then someone's going to pop a sonar grenade on the enemy team, and they're just going to come up and kill you, and you're not going to see them because they'll be invisible. So it's really not going to be that fantastic when you're solo queuing for sure. But if you are trio queuing, if you've got a dedicated team, and if you're using comms and all that, and you know what you're doing, and you're playing World Tour, if all of those requirements are met, this is probably going to be like very, very solid. But I'm not going to put it in there because A, I don't think it's very good for ranked, and B, I don't think it's very good for solo queuing players at all, so I'm probably going to leave it in C. But yeah, I think that would probably be the tier list. Healing Beam, very, 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 very good in all situations, and obviously you literally can't use it in terminal attack, so you don't really have to pay attention to that. Cloaking Device, Evasive Dash, Charge and Slam, all very, very solid, useful in most of the game modes, more so in some, but they're still going to be solid in the other ones. Winch, Cloak, Gugon, DMAT, Guardian Turret. You have to be quite good with these. You have to know what you have to know what you're doing to make these worthwhile, really. Either you have to have good aim, good game sense, or good placement of them, know when to use them, but they are all pretty solid. Mesh Shield, you know, if you've got a dedicated team, if you are good at using comms, if you're good at your callouts, this can probably be worthwhile, but I think for most people that's not going to be the case. And then Grappling Hook, you just really shouldn't be using this. Like, the Evasive Dash is just so superior. And I find it's harder to track as well, because you kind of go there's like a little blue line that happens when you use the Evasive Dash, but with the Grappling Hook, you're just extremely visible. So that's like another downside to it. So that's just going to go in D. Something needs to be done with it. People have been asking for 2 charges for a long time, or to be able to like grab teammates' totems with it, but that's probably too similar to the Winch Claw now, or for it to just have like a much, much faster cooldown. But as it stands, Grappling Hook really isn't going to be that fantastic. So I'd say that's a pretty solid tier list there. As always, if anyone kind of disagrees, I haven't posted my video from yesterday yet, which goes over all the weapons, but I have a feeling that people aren't going to agree with my my spear placement. I think a lot of people like the spear, but I just didn't think it was that fantastic. So as always, if you disagree with anything, then feel free to share that in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching, ladies and gentlemen. That is going to be it for this video. If you liked it, leave a like, subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Farewell.